The UFC does not want to allow him to fight a big name guy for his last fight on his contract. He wants to fight as soon as possible. Now, we've talked about this a bunch of times, John, right? Is that he wants to fight because he wants to get that last fight over with so he can either renegotiate or he can just bounce out to boxing to fight somebody else, right? That's what he wants to do. As soon as he comes out publicly and tells them, even privately, if he tells them, I'm ready to fight, I'm waiting on you guys to give me an opponent. Here, these are the guys that I'm willing to fight. Let's go. It's on them. Now that reactivates his contract. So even though it's delayed for 4 months, it extends his contract for 4 months.
Yeah, but as soon as he hits that fight, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. As soon as he says he's ready to fight, okay, I'm ready to fight, let's go. These are the guys that I'm ready to fight. Then that's on them. Now it activates his contract back up. So then it's not really a full 4 month long extension. As soon as he agrees to say, hey, I'm ready to fight one of these guys, that activates his contract again. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of with the position. He's actually come out publicly now and put them on the spot because now they're on the clock. They've got to get him a fight coming up because his contract will start coming to an end. And once that contract comes to an end and he has one fight left, they're going to fight him before it ends. But remember, after that contract ends, it's normally a 60 to a 90-day period where they have just exclusive negotiating rights to hold him. Now, they'll know whether they're going to do that probably by then. But, I mean, I think they're going to hold him as long as they possibly can. John, realistically, who? I mean, they're not going to let him fight Oliveira because he's the champion.
No.
That fight's not going to happen. They don't want him winning, and then he could stay. He would end up having to stay. Excuse me. He would end up having to stay if he won the title for at least 1 or 2 fights or however long, they negotiated that deal. But that won't happen.
No.
But his fight with Dustin, I don't see why. It's a perfect matchup. All the shit talking they've been doing back and forth. And I honestly, man, I really want to see, I actually would kind of prefer to see the Conor and Nate Diaz 3 over the Dustin fight. And I like Dustin a lot. I want to see Dustin fight the upper echelon of fighters. I think Nate right now is not at that point anymore. I think he had his run. I think he's getting a little bit older. I think he's motivated by handpicking. And here's the other thing with him. John, him and his brother both for years, but a lot with Nate is that there's certain fighters that motivate them to get them pumped for the fight. And there's certain fighters that don't. And we've seen them perform so-so against fighters that you could tell they're not really motivated to fight. And then you see them fight guys that they were motivated to fight. You go back and you watch his fight with Donald Cerrone. It was just
one of his best performances ever.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. I mean, in that fight, he was piecing Donald up, just touching him. And I think Donald had let him get into his head throughout that week of the fight. And I think the lead up to that fight, because Donald didn't look himself either. It was just the southpaw stance, the cracking of the talking shit as he was throwing the combinations, and he was keeping long range, not even really inside the range for the kicks. That was having some problems there. Donald started figuring out a little bit with the inside. I think it was the inside leg kick and the leg kick. He started having problems with, like, as the fight went on. Nate was, but that boxing was just tearing him up right off the bat, right from the get go. And all the talking and conversation was definitely an issue for him. But that, I'd have to agree with you. That was one of the best performances I've ever seen from Nate.
His 3 best performances, if you look at them overall, and it's, you can sit there and say whatever you want. The Donald Cerrone fight, he was amazing with his counter striking and his ability to hit Cowboy when Cowboy did not expect to be hit. The pressure he put on him. Like you said, Cowboy was starting to catch that leg towards the end of the fight, and it was making a little bit of a difference. But especially the first 2 rounds, you just looked and said, my God, I didn't see this coming in this fashion that way. And then his 2 fights with Conor. You got to admit, look at he took that first Conor fight, last minute. He had about a week to prepare for it, if that, and went out there, took a lot of abuse in the beginning, but we all know that Nate can do that, and then just started peppering Conor. Conor got tired, tried to put him away, and just did what he does. Started putting shots on him, hurt him. And as he says, I made you a wrestler. And that's what he did, because it was Conor that took the shot and tried to take him down. Yeah. So, the second fight that he had with Conor, I thought was an amazing fight, actually, by Nate, because Conor had done his homework, had figured things out, and he was touching Nate a lot and backing off, not overextending, not trying to load up a lot. And Nate just took his time, and he had those moments in that fight where he had Conor in trouble, and it was a close fight. One of the best fights, I think, that anyone, when you're watching MMA, you look at what happened in that fight. It was an amazing fight. So those are his 3 best performances. But if I was going to pick someone that, he hasn't fought that I would like to see him fight, I would like to see him fight Dustin Poirier. I'd like to see what happens, but I don't care if it's at 155, but I think at 170, since Dustin has said, hey, I want to go up, make it at 170, have, both of them feeling, all swollen up and feeling good, have energy, and let's see what happens in it. I think it'd be an interesting fight.
Yeah, I think if both of them don't have to make the cut, I don't think Nate really wants to make that cut anymore.
I don't think so
talked
either.
about, I don't think he has any interest in doing that. I would hate to see the fight actually come to like fruition, and then the week of going, yeah, I'm not making the weight. You're going to have to make the weight. That wouldn't be fair either. I'd like to see it to be even across the board. Even if they decided to say, hey, let's do a catch weight between the two of them, but I don't think the UFC would really care. They'd be say, hey, let's just do it at 170. Whatever you guys come in at, you guys come in at. I think they would make adjustments for that fight. I don't see that happening. The history of the UFC has been proven that what they want to do is the person on their last fight of their contract, they don't want them fighting any of their top guys.
No, normally they want to get them beat, though.
Yes, so unless there's a top guy like a Chimaev, like if you can say Chimaev versus Nate, they're going to take that fight all day long.
Oh, they did. I think that's the fight they tried to put over onto Nate. Yep. I think Nate said, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. And so Nate knows what they're doing. The history has shown that's what they do. You know what I mean? And so when it comes down, and it's a smart business plan here, like we continue to say this, guys, that this is what they've learned over the years when dealing with their fighters that are on their last fight of their contract. John, is like they didn't, when they were younger, when they were relatively learning the sport, Dana, Lorenzo, Frank, they were learning how to handle these athletes. They couldn't take the athletes at face value because the athletes had something in the back of their mind that they wanted to do that didn't always agree with what the UFC wanted to do. And they bounced out and left them high and dry. Yeah. So when we say the UFC does this, and this, we're not talking bad about them.
No.
What we're telling you guys is that over the years, John, they've learned from negative experiences because the fighters have fucked them over.
We call it, in police work, it's called an MO. It's modus operandi. And it's that shows that you have a system of doing something, and they have a system of doing something. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying this is what they do. They're going to, if they have a fighter that they believe he's going to leave, he wants to go somewhere else, she wants to go somewhere else, they're going to look towards a person that they believe can beat that person, that they can use the name of that bigger star to get a win against them with their young star that they have coming up, and they can use that in building the young star. Their job as a promotion is to build stars. And so there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, that's their MO. That's their modus operandi. That's what they do. They're going to look, if you're that person that's going to be in that position to leave, they're going to look to get you beat because they want to use your name.
Yeah, you guys go back and look at the Randy Couture situation, look at the BJ Penn situation, look at any fighters that have decided to try and leave as they were making their exit out. Okay. And Nate is no different in this situation. And they've done it to a lot of fighters as they've gone and they've started to pass and decided to leave their career behind. They have learned this over those years in dealing with those type of fighters. And it's just been the learning curve for them. That's why Dana knows, like, hey, this is how we handle each situation. They have, and like you said, an MO for how they handle each one of these situations because of what they've had to deal with in the past.
100% agree.